Well, I think that the Princeton offense is different. We don't see a lot of that, and so having to scout that and guard that's tough. And I mean, we just really didn't come to play either game until I guess the start of the game and then the end a little bit today, and we made a little bit of a comeback. But I don't know, we just didn't have our minds in it.
Trey, it puts you guys in, I don't know, not a real tough spot as far as the conference tournament, but definitely a little bit more difficult than it would have been if you won today. How do you make sure you get the best out of yourselves next week?
We just come to practice ready to work.
Was there anything in particular that they did that made them tough to beat today?
I mean, they just followed their game plan and really moved the ball well, and I mean hit some shots, and took advantage of our lack of defense for the most part.
Trey, what enabled the comeback to give yourselves a chance to win at the end?
Well, we always just fall to the end, so that's what we do. We never just give up. That's pretty much it.
Are they a tough matchup, Eric? Obviously, Jack didn't play. Hager didn't play. So it just seemed like you and Flack were rotating. Especially with Power, there's sparking a little bit too. So just a tough matchup down low then.
I wouldn't say that. They were pounding the ball inside, and they took advantage of that a little bit. And it's tough when we were switching and whatnot to guard some of the bigger guys, but and we were fronting, and they were getting it over the top, which was on our help side too. So I think it was a lot of different factors, but I mean, I'm sure Jack and Hags will be back next game and play some minutes.
Tino, feel a little weird thinking that this is the last game you're playing in the Dome?
At first it was a little emotional, but it wasn't. Just because I know I've been here for 3.5 years, so knowing that it's the last game, you get kind of emotional, but at the same time, still got a game to finish. But it feels good to play the last game in the Dome.
Probably wasn't the way you wanted it to end either, but you had chances there at the end.
Yeah, obviously wanted to come out on top, but missed a few shots. I missed a floater at the end, and Burnett missed a wide open 3-ball. But they'll fall down eventually, so you just got to keep pushing.
Well, disappointing night certainly with everything going on. You got 5 seniors that you're honoring, and then just an end of an era, right? 37 years in the Dome, and some tremendous tradition, and a lot of fantastic teams and great players, and you want to go out on the right note, being victorious. But it didn't work like that. I thought we might find some Dome magic at the end when we made that huge run, and Norris's little floater when we were down 4 is rattled around the rim and popped out, and then the next possession we get a stop, and Burnett has a wide open 3, and it rattles around and pops out, and we just couldn't, had a couple really clean looks, but just dug ourselves too big of a hole for a multitude of reasons. First half, we jump up 10-4 in the first media timeout. We have 3 assists. The rest of the half, we have 2 assists. I thought we got really one-on-one-ish and not moving the ball and ball reversals and throwing it inside and outside and driving closeouts. And we end up with 24 points in the first half, so 14 the last basically 15 minutes of the half. And then I thought Logan Power really sparked us, when he went in. All of a sudden, he didn't hurt us on the defensive end, and all of a sudden our offense starts clicking. We just space the floor, move the ball, and it's amazing what happens. Now all of a sudden you have rhythm shots, and good passing teams are good shooting teams. And next thing you know, we started knocking down everything in sight. I think Davis hits 2, Burnett hits 1, Power hits 1. Casey, I think, hit 1 or maybe 2 in there. But all of a sudden, shooting's contagious, and it just kind of changed everything that last, 11, almost 12 minutes or so. So thought he did a great job. But just too many, from the start of the second half to about that 12-minute mark, we just had so many lapses on the defensive end, and they exposed us for it and just couldn't respond. And we don't get to the foul line. We were 1 for 1 from the free throw line. And so, it's hard to win any college basketball game when you're shooting 1 free throw attempt. And that's something that we try to emphasize, but obviously it didn't happen. So Disappointing night. I thought Denver played well. They made us pay 9 for 15 from the three. And they didn't get a ton of open threes, but when they did, they were going down, it seemed like. So give them credit. They're a tough team to go against. It's a unique matchup, and we didn't make them pay.
What is it, the reason they got your number lately? Like you said, it's hard to
Well,
system, I guess.
yeah, I mean, it's a tough prep. I felt like we prepped well. It's hard to, it's hard to simulate like their speed and just exactly the ball movement and the crisp. I thought we did a way better job tonight than we did there. It's interesting. Being at Colorado State for 5 years, we play Air Force every year. They run the same. I mean, it's a little different variation, but the same stuff. And Northwestern ran it our first year at Nebraska, and like once we started defending it with we call them the Princeton rules. I think we were 23-2 against Princeton teams like in the last 25 games. So we know the formula, but you got to be very disciplined. You got to be smart defending their actions. You got to be able to pick up actions, and you just got to be very sound. When you screw up against them, they usually make you pay. I mean, right now I think they're the second best offensive team in the league in terms of like field goal percentage. I mean, they just grind you out though. Like they're I don't know what they are right now. Last time we played them, they were 350 out of 351 in terms of the lowest possessions a game in the country. So they shorten the game, right? They'll pass up an open look to get a better look. And they got a lot of guys that can shoot it out there. And then the matchup zone, you have to have feel against it. Like you got to be able to make some plays. You have to know where to move and how to cut and find openings. And then obviously I thought inserting Logan really helped us because we were able to stretch it. You guys saw the game against York. We go 1 for 17 from the three, and we had been struggling from the three. And we were struggling from the three most of the night until the last 10 minutes. Then we just start scoring like crazy, And so, we just, like I said, we don't get fouled. So you got to have, they just expose you for what you are a lot of times, the way they play.
Conference tournament-wise, obviously, you have to feel fairly confident, but now it gets a little.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been a huge win for us from the standpoint of like we're tied with Denver. Now you're one back of Oral Roberts, who we have the tiebreaker with, and you could climb as high as 6. Well, now we're 2 back, to make that next jump. And so we haven't talked a lot about that stuff. I mean, like we're just trying to lock in to be the best that we can be, and going into March. So. You know what? If we're good enough to make the conference tournament, we're good enough. And if we're not, we're not. It's really that simple.
The 2 freshmen didn't play tonight. Is it a matchup deal?
It's a total matchup deal. I mean, they'll be out there on the floor tomorrow. It's nothing, they're young. And it takes we have some guys that have been out there 4 years in struggle guard. It's a tough, deal to go against. And, they weren't great at their place. There was a lot of mistakes. And in practice for 2 days, there were, a lot of mistakes. And we shortened the bench. And it's just such a low possession game that it's not that we shortened the bench and tried to do some things that way. And it helped. And we played a lot smaller the last 10 minutes or so, right? Either basically Logan Power was our 4-man or Burnett was our 4-man. And all of a sudden we start, we weren't stopping them anyway, so we just said, screw it. At least this way we might score more, and we did, and give ourselves a chance.
1 free throw, that's hard to do.
That's mind-boggling. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's interesting.
Craig, talk about your 5 seniors. Obviously, on the video you talked, how much they meant to this program and bringing this program along. Talk about that.
Well, you start with Robertson and Kasperbauer simply because those guys were here for 4 years. And, those guys have had 3 coaches in 4 years. Like, that's a tough thing to go through. I mean, in today's day and age, a lot of guys will go through 2. I wouldn't say a lot, but I mean, it happens more and more certainly. But to have 3, that's quite an adjustment. And, Kasperbauer, obviously he's climbing the charts with scoring, and he's a leader on the floor type of guy and just a really cerebral player. And I thought he's really improved his last year and a half or so. I mean, he's made huge strides. And Robertson is just a tough guy. I mean, he's a tough guy. He's a good mid-range shooter, I've seen that way. He's kind of, I don't know, he's kind of a tweener guy, as a 4 and the 5, but he's a tough, competitive kid. And so those guys have seen a lot, over their 4-year career. And then Dual Mayotte doesn't see the floor a whole lot, but he's just an ultimate teammate. The guys love him. He's probably, like I said in the pregame thing, he's probably the most popular guy on our team around campus. Trey Norris, been here 3 years. And so, is that right? Actually 4 with the transfer too. So he redshirted the first year. So he's been through 4 coaches as well. And, he's give him a lot of credit. He's had some ups and downs, and he started every game as a sophomore. Didn't start one game last year. Didn't start many, early on until recently. And he's playing the best basketball of his career. He's really doing some great things. Plays 40 minutes tonight. He's starting to really figure some things out. And then Trey Burnett, Trey is the first guy that believed in us, right? And the new coaching staff, and he was the first person to commit to us, and he believed in us when really nobody was. And it always got to start with the first, and Trey's a guy that can really make some plays and get some things going, and we're going to need Trey to play well here down the stretch if we're going to do what we want to do.
Without really looking at the records or anything, did you ever face Dave Boots? And then if not,
As an assistant.
You did it.
Yeah, I was at North Dakota State for 3 years, and so,
that's right.
I think our first year they beat us both times. Then our second year we beat them all 3 times and beat them in the conference tournament. And then last year I think we split. And Coach Miles used to in his younger days talk trash to the players, and so Mueller didn't score for the first 10 minutes of the game, and so all of a sudden he was beating his chest and thought he was Superman, Coach Miles, and all of a sudden he starts talking trash, not like cussing or saying anything. And Josh just kind of looks over at Miles, and I looked at Coach Miles and I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you waking up the sleeping giant here? And then he proceeds to have 35, and we lose 105-99. And I just still to this day completely blame Miles, because Mueller was just bored out there and just wasn't doing anything and cranking up, 35 footers, and he didn't crotch too many of those, but I told our team that when we were out in Denver, because he spoke to our players. And he had a great speech to our guys. But moral of the story, don't wake up the sleeping giant. And Miles did that, and he kicked our the next 30 minutes, and still at 35. It was unbelievable.
Greg, I know you're in the locker room, but obviously they honored a lot of the alumni. That had to be cool to see those guys, represent, the whole.
Well, yeah, I don't know who got the Mount Rushmore, but I know this: the 8 guys that were in it from every. I recruited Turner Truffles at North Dakota State. Tyler Kane, I watched video of him. I'm not sure why. Somebody, actually Randy Baruth, who's a South Dakota guy, who is a really good guy, and he told me about Tyler Kane, and obviously, and I've heard great things about Rosie, and he was coaching against my son in football this year. But I've heard all these guys. I know Nate Blesson. I've heard so many stories. Nate Tibbetts, obviously. Just what a great tradition of basketball. And quite frankly, that was when the job ended up opening. That was a huge reason. And I've said it many times, but when I was at North Dakota State, the crowds are really good. I know the rich tradition of basketball, and you as a coach, you want to be able to lead a program and where there is a great tradition and where you have people excited about things. And I'll tell you, those guys, I met almost all of those guys along with their crew, and just can't speak highly enough about the kind of people they are and the way they operate and how they've really opened their arms, and because that was a tough deal, the way everything went down. And I just can't speak highly enough to them about welcoming us, so to speak, to the family. And I remember the Hall of Fame weekend, I had a light colored blue shirt on. I think Mick, you were there. And so did Austin Hansen. And it didn't take long for Nate Tibbetts and Josh Mueller to basically maul us and put on the red Carey shirt over our kind of a light blue button shirt. And so, but truly, it's when you've been here for a year and a half, and you guys have all been here for however much time, it's hard to quantify what it's like being a Coyote. But it's truly a special place. I've been at so many places. I mean, I've been at a lot of different places. But when you only live here for 4 months or 6 months, or you bring a recruit in for 48 hours, like, you don't get the feel of what it truly is like here. And it's a special, special place. And I know personally I couldn't be more proud to be here and be a Yote. And there will be better days, hopefully sooner than later, like starting Thursday.